Fisk unit. Fisk unit. What's good, y'all? Fist Vegas, the hardest voice of sports. Go ahead, hit that like button and subscribe to the Fist Schooner while you at it. Y'all know what time it is. If you ain't with it, you best get with it. Now let's rock. Alright, so check this out. I'm gonna get straight to the point. When I recorded that reaction yesterday, that was within 20 to 30 minutes of him being traded. Okay, I didn't see none of the tweets, none of the Instagram reels. I didn't see none of the shenanigans that Toney went on to display throughout the day. I didn't see it. But I'm going to say something, and it needs to be said. If that dude was dogging injuries, I wish him the worst. If he was dogging injuries, there's no love lost for him. None. If he was Kawhi Leonarding himself on the Giants, there's no love for him. Remember when Kawhi Leonard wanted out of San Antonio, so he basically, quote unquote, overdid his calf injury? You know what I'm saying? James Harden, all of a sudden James Harden gets fat and his hamstring hurts or his back hurts like Ben Simmons. I'm sorry. Forgive Big Fist for saying Kadarius Toney faked an injury when all across sports, athletes are faking injuries to get traded. So when Kadarius Toney says what he says, my mind says screw him. Because you got Saquon playing with one shoulder. You got Daniel Jones playing on a bad ankle and bloody hands. You got freaking Brian Robinson got shot, healed up and came back before Kadarius Toney did. I mean, at some point it was starting to get fishy. And I'm starting to think that maybe he was just in a doghouse. Maybe Kadarius Toney didn't want to get with the program. Maybe Kadarius Toney was a jerk. And Brian Dable and Joe Shane weren't going for that. Maybe that's what happened. Because I've never seen Kadarius Toney not one time look hurt. He didn't look hurt when he was getting wide open versus the Panthers. And he didn't look hurt when he was making the Tennessee Titans miss on that trick play. Never seen him get hurt. And then he comes up with a phantom hamstring injury and we never see him again. So when he goes off on these tweets and he says the things he says, good riddance. Now we know why Joe Shane got him up out the building. You can't win with a guy like that. At least not the Giants. We can't win with a guy like that. We're depending on somebody who didn't want to play for us. We're depending on somebody who didn't want to get with the program. So, good riddance. You feel me? Like, good riddance. We're 6-1 without you. We don't need you. You can't miss what you never had. How we going to miss Toney when we never had Toney? See, this is what frustrates me. You see, it'd be one thing if it was Odell. When we traded Odell, I was heartbroken. I was angry. I was despondent. My feelings were hurt. Okay? Because Odell balled. He was the team. He's the reason we was on primetime games. The world wanted to see Odell. That hurt. When we traded Toney, all I said was, get us another guy. I don't give a dang about Toney. Who cares? Who cares about Kadarius Toney? Who? We want a receiver that's going to help Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley lead us to the promised land. My only caveat, and I say this about all of our players, is not just Kadarius Toney. I say this about all of our players. If a winning franchise wants that guy, he's good enough for us. If he's good enough for Andy Reid, if he's good enough for Bill Belichick, maybe we should reevaluate and say, why is he working here if winning organizations want that player? That's not that's a general statement. That applies to Kadarius Toney. That applies to anybody on the Giants. If another organization who wins football games wants that player, what are we doing wrong? And that's any sport. That's not just football. That's basketball. Any sport. But at the end of the day, I don't give a damn about Kadarius Toney. I don't think anybody watching this video gives a damn about Kadarius Toney. He played one good game for the Giants versus the Cowboys. And in that game, he punched somebody in the face and got ejected. So what we really talking about? We'll forget Kadarius Toney even existed if we get a DJ Moore or a Jerry Jeudy in the building. We'll forget he existed. Straight up. And the truth of the matter is, DeAndre Baker played more games for the Giants than Toney did. And we already forgot he existed. So, I mean, it is what it is. Kadarius Toney could go to Kansas City. He could do whatever he want to do. He can ball out. He can do all that. But I'm at a point now where I don't care if Kadarius Toney goes to Kansas City and becomes Jerry Rice. He didn't want to be a Giant. So you can't fault Dable. You can't fault Shane for getting rid of a guy who didn't want to be here. He didn't want to be here. And that's that. You can't tell me otherwise. You cannot tell me otherwise. That boy did not want to play. Something was always wrong with him. He was always injured. He didn't want to be here. And I held out hope for the longest, hoping that he would get on the field and help this team. But it never came to be. And y'all know I lost patience with Kadarius Toney when I started saying, is he real? Is he a hologram? Is he a ghost? Does he really exist? I started losing patience. It is what it is, though. Kenny Golladay, on the other hand, who's still a New York football Giant, has had an attitude adjustment because Kenny Golladay has been a loser his whole career. And that's not a personal shot at Golladay. That's a shot at the Lions. That's a personal shot at the Detroit Lions. How Matthew Stafford won a Super Bowl his first year in LA, but was rotten for 10 years in Detroit. That's not even a Golladay shot. That's a Lion shot. So you got Golladay coming out here saying, I've never been on a 10-win team before. I want to know what it's like to win. I want to know what it's like to be in the playoffs. I want to know what it's like to play important games. And you got a guy in Kenny Golladay who's doing everything he can to get healthy and get on the field, unlike Toney, who never has anything to say until he gets traded. That dude gets traded, and all of a sudden he want to ball, he want to tweet and post and all this other stuff. Now all of a sudden he got something to say. Man, whatever. I hope Golladay come back. And those end zone, because Daniel Jones seems to throw to Darius Slayton in the end zone like 2 possessions a game. I'm hoping those end zone throws can go to Golladay in a couple weeks. I hope Golladay could come back and contribute. I hope Joe Shane, after we get rid of the Seahawks, I hope he goes out and gets Jerry Jeudy, DJ Moore, go kick the tires on Elijah Moore, whatever he got to do. But we need a receiver. It don't have to be Kadarius Toney. We just need a receiver that can help Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley get what they need to get. But I've never been so disgusted at a tweet before that Brian Dable and Joe Shane didn't want him to play. He was healthy. Man, please. If they didn't want him to play, it's probably because he was over there acting a fool and they just did a good job of covering it up. That's what my money's on. That's what my money's on. But it is what it is, people. The Giants are 6-1. We're going to the playoffs. Give a damn about no Kadarius Toney. We got Wandale. Let's see what my boy Wandale can do as a number 1 versus Seattle. But that's it. That's all. Subscribe to the unit if you rocking with me. My name is Fitz Vegas, and I approve this message.